Direct from Foxborough, Massachusetts, the gem of Norfolk County, and taped at the studios of Foxborough Cable Access. It's Foxborough Central. And here's your host, Bob Hickey.
I am Bob Hickey, and I want to thank you for coming to our little piece of the world here. Foxborough Central will be rebroadcasting this interview with Tracy Vasili, who is the chairman of our Citizens Advisory Committee. Tracy, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And of course, we're here waiting for election results to be tabulated, counted, and once they are, we're going to cut over and give you the election results live here on cable channel 22, channel 38, or streaming on fcatv.org. So, something that's become a bit of a tradition and a happy one, I believe, is that we take this opportunity to talk with the chairman of the advisory committee about the upcoming town meeting warrant. And town meeting this year is Monday, May 11th.
Yes, at the high school at 7:30 p.m.
And I hope to see a lot of our neighbors and friends out there. Of course, not everybody can make it, but for those of you who care about your community, you want to make sure that your voice is heard. It's a great night to come out, see your friends, see your neighbors, see people maybe aren't your friends, but people who all share one commonality, and that is civic participation. And in order for us to participate fully, we need information. Now, I am a busy guy. I've got a family. I do a couple things here on the side, here, there, and everywhere. So I don't really have the time to research every single warrant article. And how many warrant articles are there this year?
There is a total of...
There's a bunch.
There was some added at the last minute as well, but there is a total of... Can you really get to it?
Well, while she's counting, I didn't mean to...
excuse me.
It was
24.
24. So the important role of the advisory committee is to research each warrant article for us and make a recommendation. Now, the recommendation isn't necessarily one that we all have to agree with, but it's an informed recommendation, and that's really the strength of what the advisory committee does. So maybe you can touch on that.
Absolutely. Well, the Foxborough Advisory Committee is made up of about 12 to 15 residents appointed by the town moderator, who at this point is Frank Spillane. And it's a representative of the population of our town, and they're responsible for reviewing and vetting the town budget, which is approximately $64 million a year. And also vetting, researching, asking questions regarding the warrant articles at both the special town meeting in the fall as well as the annual town meeting in May.
So we spend over $1 million a week here in this town.
We do.
That's an amazing number.
We do, and the schools account for about 32 million of it.
And that's a healthy number, and it goes towards a worthy cause, of course, educating our children. But you just can't throw money at any problem, no matter what the problem is. And so that's why it's important that we have the advisory committee to help us as fair citizens understand the issues a little more. So I know absolutely nothing, and anybody who reads my column probably would agree. But anyway, but I'm pumped. The question I pose to you is, what is the number one hot button issue that would make me, Joe Citizen, want to come to the town meeting on May 11th?
Well, I think number one is the budget. The full budget is reviewed at the budget line item level, so at the department level as well, where we go line by line, and residents have the chance to ask questions, hold over a budget for further discussion following the full walkthrough, and the opportunity to get those questions answered. So I think the budget is always definitely a big one, especially considering the size.
Now, it is full participation, and you mentioned that any citizen can stand up, raise their hand, and hold an item for further review. So
absolutely,
it's a live document. It's not something that's a foregone conclusion by any means.
Absolutely not.
And that's the beauty of the participatory town government that we have. So with that, is there any red flag or is there any green flag in this year's budget? Something that you get excited about? Something that you're a little nervous about?
It was definitely a fully vetted budget. The particular department areas that we dug probably a little bit deeper into this year, which in the case of the schools, we typically vet that given the size and the extensiveness of it. We also brought back conservation for a little bit more in-depth discussion regarding some requests they had in terms of additional hours for their department manager. Okay. And then also within the rec department, we also asked them to come back in to address some additional questions regarding the rec department manager's salary. Okay. So those were vetted multiple times, and then ultimately to our satisfaction and our recommendation.
Okay. So, as we talk here, of course, with Tracy Vasili with the advisory committee, the advisory committees, we'll call it AdCom, of course, your entire set of recommendations, is that not published in the Foxborough Reporter newspaper?
It is. It'll be published. It's always published the week before town meeting, so it'll be published this Thursday.
This Thursday. So everybody should spend their dollar, go out, buy a Foxborough Reporter. Of course, I'll be in there also, but the real message this time is the advisory committee.
If you'd also like a hard copy, they are available at the town hall as well.
Excellent. Town Hall, of course, at 40 South Street. The question I suppose everybody wants to know is there anything about Town Hall in the warrant?
There is nothing about the town hall in the warrant. As many will recall, the town approved this expense of about $550,000 or so at the last meeting in the fall to go ahead to do the plans with the architectural firm. That is in the process of being done, and they developed various floor plan options, and that's being vetted. But at this point in this meeting, Bob, there's nothing regarding the town hall.
Okay. So since there's no town hall question on the warrant, and the budget seems to have been pretty well vetted, I'm sure there'll be some questions as they come up.
Absolutely.
How about the capital improvement budget?
Capital improvement budget takes a little bit of a unique approach in terms of how it's vetted. It's basically this includes anything with a life expectancy, of over 5 years, greater than $25,000 expenditure, comes in front of the Capital Improvement Committee. That's comprised of the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, the chairman of the Financial Advisory Committee, Bill Keegan, our town manager, Roger Hill, the head of our DPW, as well as Deb Spinelli, our school superintendent. Yep. We spend a full Saturday where the different departments come in requesting the funds. And then at the end of that, we prioritize and vote which ones, the priority, and then which ones, given the budget put forth, which Randy Scollins does a fabulous job of working with us to understand in terms of the funding and truly what we can afford. We then, vote on which ones we can support and put through this year.
So is there anything interesting on the CIP budget that you think people might be curious to know about?
Well, one thing is last year the CIP budget was about $5.5 million. This year it's about half of that. So definitely taking a very conservative approach. Included in it is typical things that are included in there. We typically buy 2 school buses per year, or equipment for the DPW, etc. I think an important thing that's in there this year is lighting for the Sam Burns turf field, which had a lot of folks that were supportive of it, as well as folks who felt money could be spent elsewhere. But that did get approval from the Capital Improvement Committee, and that's in there. So hopefully that's something the town will approve as well, and we can move forward with rather quickly.
That'll be an interesting project because that field turned out very nicely, as well as the baseball diamonds in the backyard of the high school. I call it the backyard, but really that's where it is. So that whole area has really undergone a metamorphosis of epic proportion.
And it's important to note too that I believe the amount for the turf field lighting is about $165,000 out of about a $2.3 million capital improvement
seems like
budget.
A reasonable number.
Well, they actually got the Burns' Sam's parents got the lighting at a very discounted price point because of some relationships that they had, and then the folks that are going to put in the stanchions to hold the lights actually are donating them completely for no cost to the town. So
I remember back when I was in the CIP committee, Michael Leary, who is then the facilities manager of the Foxborough schools, we had a couple light poles at the Ahern field that needed to be replaced, and if I remember correctly, for only 2, there was $65,000. So I'm amazed that that this project can come in at $165,000. That just shows a lot of community support and a lot of people who have good feelings about the project. So hopefully that's something that'll get approved at the town meeting.
I personally hope so, and the AdCom did support it as well.
Fantastic. So, and I suppose it is worth mentioning that the money for that funds, you mentioned, is half of what it was last year, but that money is really quote unquote free money, which is money, one-time money that comes in excess of the operating budget, or that hasn't been applied to the operating budget, and it is separate from the operating budget. And Randy Scollins does such a great job of educating us and making sure that we're all fully aware that operating funds are recurring revenue stream that isn't going to be hit, while the CIP budget is one-time revenue or revenue overage from the year's budget before, because it's on an every other year cycle, because you have to get it certified by the state, and then it comes in.
Very complicated process.
It's a very complicated process, way too complicated for me to mumble through myself.
You're doing a great job.
Well, if I pick nothing else up, there you go. But the CIP budget is truly a great way for the town to be able to pay for expenditures to improve our community in a very concerted, organized, and planned manner. Because I know that the CIP budget also takes years to develop for some large-scale projects. I know that Witch Pond pumping station was a multi-year project funded by the Water and Sewer Department, that some years some money will be set aside for a future purchase of a fire truck, that sort of thing. Is there anything in the budget this year in the CIP that is going for a future purchase?
No, not that I'm aware of.
So it's all in this year?
It's all in this year.
Makes it easy.
Yes, it is.
All
yes,
right.
it does.
Don't have to explain anything for some future day.
No.
Beautiful. So we've covered CIP and we've covered the budget. That's money. That's financial. That's number crunching.
Yes.
Number crunching is over. Now let's talk about some of the other 22 warrant articles. Are there any town contracts that are ready to be signed and for town voter approval?
There's actually several of them. The ones that are sticking out most is the fire department's contract.
Okay.
That was well negotiated by both the union as well as our town manager and assistant town manager, and it's a good contract. It's a 2-year deal that allows for an additional head to be added to the department, which is very sorely needed. We run we run 2 individuals under what is recommended. So this will bring us within 1 of that number. So a gradual approach to bringing it up to.
I don't pay any
snuff.
attention to those people.
That's okay. You do much better than I. But so that's good. There's also performance-based metrics in a union contract, which I personally found very refreshing. Same is true with the dispatcher contract, which is a new one for our town. And it being new, it's a 1-year agreement versus a 2 or 3 year agreement, which is our typical. Both include the typical COLA increase, cost of living of 2%. As well as addressing some of the other, important things of accrual of sick days and allowances for boots and equipment and so forth. Okay. So those are the ones that I think will be of most interest to folks, given the addition of the headcount within the fire one, and the fact the dispatcher one is a new contract.
Okay, that's very interesting. Now you mentioned a metric. I know that Bill Keegan and before him Kevin Pecos, our former town manager, had worked hard to try to create some sort of a structure to the pay scale and make it more of a merit-based system. And I also know that there's a great deal of push and pull. And I'm just kind of curious, where do we stand now with that? What's your impression?
Are you talking about the union? All the union contracts?
Remember,
or just
I know absolutely nothing, so just ask anybody out there.
Well, what's good is most of our employees in town are under union contracts. So typically union contracts don't have performance metrics in them. What we're seeing under the new management of Bill Keegan and Mary Beth Bernard is a move more towards metric-based contracts with the unions. And I have to say that, when we did speak with the fire department union representatives who came in to jointly present the agreement to the AdCom with the town manager and assistant town manager, they were very supportive of it. So I think we're going to see more of it as future contracts come up for renewal. That's
great to hear, and of course a strong police department, fire department, DPW department. I almost called them tree and I almost did, but
that's
a new
that's a newly renegotiated one as well, but very minor changes in that one this time around.
So that'll be great to be able to get through some of those and have labor peace in the town.
I have to say, it's also been very refreshing is, typically, money needs to be spent on town council when negotiating union contracts. And Bill and Mary Beth have done a fabulous job of utilizing outside counsel for that and at a minimum, because it has been a rather, pleasant experience for both organizations, the town and the different unions. So not only have they gone well, not only have good contracts resulted, but they haven't incurred a lot of costs for our town in terms of outside counsel fees. And I think that's important to note, and be thankful for.
It's interesting you bring that up because that's one of those small things that really go a long way when you have labor peace. And where does it start? It comes from strong leadership as well as an understanding that we're all here to do a job, and the paid professionals in our town deserve to be treated fairly, and as well as the taxpayers in this town deserve to be treated fairly. And it's a strong statement when everybody feels as though they came away with something.
Absolutely.
Nobody's ever going to get everything, but everybody feels as though they came away with something.
No, I think the approach that's being taken by both the unions, that had contracts negotiated for this town meeting, Bob, and, for our town manager, assistant town manager, is to get a win-win contracts in place. They wanted fair contracts, and, and the unions and the representatives obviously felt the same way because that's what we were able to achieve.
That's great. So, of course, I'm here with Tracy Vasili. She is the chairman of the Foxborough Citizens Advisory Committee. We are enjoying each other's company, talking about the upcoming town warrant as we await live election results here at the Ahern Middle School, where the polls closed a little bit over an hour ago. As a beautiful day, we hope you came out and voted. We think a little bit over 23% of your fellow neighbors did. Yep. And you're enjoying us here live on cable 22 or 38, depending upon your cable station, and on our streaming web, www.fcatv.org/click the link. I don't know how you got to us, but you're obviously watching us, because if you wouldn't see me. So Tracy, and I hope Bob Gillis is laughing in the truck right now. That's my major goal in life here. So Tracy, as we come upon the town warrant, and we talk through the contracts and we talk through the budget, what are some of the other things on there?
I think one thing that's important to note is, and I think that's received a lot of press in the Foxborough Reporter, as well as the Sun Chronicle, has been the executive power of the Water and Sewer Commissioners.
Okay.
A couple of years ago, we actually voted to transfer the collective bargaining and employee powers, if you will, over to the town manager for handling, inadvertently due to some wording within the language of the amended bylaw. Actually, all of the it was felt that potentially it could be understood that all of the executive powers left the Water and Sewer Commissioners was not the intent. So
that's
that
a
it needed to be rectified.
really interesting topic, and Mike Stanton did us the honor of appearing on a previous episode of Foxborough Central to talk about that topic. And the issue, I think, is more one of housekeeping, and I think it originally came across as a power issue, and that couldn't be further from the truth, could it? Because the real issue here is that the intention of the town was X, was to put all the employees under the control of the town manager for the purposes of creating the DPW. Didn't have anything to do with ceding powers or responsibilities.
Not at all.
It was simply a personnel issue as far as creating contracts and having a flow of communication, a flow of leadership, and a hierarchy of responsibility. And so what this is really, although it's a little bit more than simple housekeeping, it is essentially a housekeeping article, because what we're doing is we're putting right what we meant to do back in the day.
Exactly. And I think there was a lot of, not controversy, but confusion over that fact.
And that's what, exactly.
And then it became a question, and then it kind of got mixed in with the sale of septic, sewer flow outside of the town. And really all the article does, and I think Mike Stanton did an excellent job of conveying this, as did Bob Garber and Rich Pasella, the other two.
Who are 3 water and sewer commissioners.
Absolutely, who are elected officials in our town, in terms of, focusing on what the true issue was, which was to to get something back that we had intended all along. So it is very much a housekeeping issue. During the discussions, it did come up who should have the authority to approve the sale of sewer flow outside of the town. Mike Stanton and Lorraine Brew both did an excellent job, along with the Board of Selectmen.
Chairman of the Water and Sewer Commissioners and Chairman of the Board of Selectmen.
And their respective committees, to come to a compromise where the flow of the sale of sewer flow within the town, per earlier town warrants articles, would come to the town for a vote. And you'll see that the second to last article, where we're voting in some new parcels.
So let's talk about that next. But as we do that, we're talking also about the new reality, which was started back in 2008 when Representative Jay Barrows put forth legislation at the State House to allow for intermunicipality agreements that did not dictate that sewage flow land in the same geographic area as it emanated from, and that opened up a whole new opportunity to have Foxborough participate as owners in a revised sewer agreement, because up until now we've been customers of the town of Mansfield, and now we are part owners.
We are part owners with Mansfield as well as Norton. Excuse me. We are now part owners and have the ability to sell what's termed as sewer flow, both within the town as well as outside of the town as we see fit, which actually, is an asset to the town because we can sell it and in turn receive a revenue that obviously, is a positive for our municipality.
Well, it also takes revenue to construct a system, and with
does.
It's one of those push-pulls, because we need the new flow in order to have development, and we need to have development in order to justify the new flow, but you can't have either without having the revenue stream, and right now we only have just over 1,000 users of the water and sewer system.
Correct.
And so it's unfair to put the burden, it's actually unreasonable to put the burden of that on the backs of just those 1,000 folks. So how do you get there? Chicken or the egg? How do you get there? So
well, and the goodness is, as I mentioned, the second last article for this town meeting is to allow flow to additional parcels within town. The second part of the last article regarding the executive power of water sewer is to allow the sale of sewer flow outside of the town to be approved by both the water and sewer commissioners as well as the Board of Selectmen. And that is really where we can pick up some additional revenue to alleviate the financial burden of those 1,000 folks that are on town sewer today.
And the nice thing about that is what we're doing is we would be granting authority for them to enter into an agreement. It's not actually an agreement on the table. It's not actually something that we're voting in tomorrow. We're going to turn on the spigot to the town of Sharon. It's really setting the structure so that way the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners have the option and the opportunity to create that type of revenue stream. Sharon would be a customer, just as Foxborough has been a customer all these years.
Exactly. We're finally owners. We're being basically landlords versus solely tenants.
Yep.
And there's obviously benefits
nice
to that.
to be in.
One thing I learned that I thought was very interesting is right now sewer flow sells for a little over $43 per gallon.
Really?
Which, just think of, if you do the math at home, really how much of a revenue producer this can be for our town.
That's amazing. So with that, the opportunity before us, the town of Sharon, I guess, needs to have some growth also.
Yes.
And they're at capacity, and so they're looking to buy in either because of geography or because of just plain old capacity.
Yep.
They want to become customers of the Foxborough, Mansfield, Norton Municipal Water District.
There's been discussion of that. Last I knew that we were trying to arrange a meeting out there to kind of look at exactly what they were in need of. Not quite sure if that actually has taken place when probably about a month or so ago, my understanding was it had not. So I'm not quite, it was out there on the table, but I'm not sure ever an official application or request to purchase the flow has been made.
Okay.
I would defer that question to Mike Stanton.
Well, and that's really not what's on the table right now.
Not
what's
at
on
all.
the table is simply creating the structure and the opportunity for them to have that type of discussion and to be able to enter into an agreement.
Absolutely. It's definitely, I want to commend Lorraine Brew, who's right now chair of the Board of Selectmen, and then Mike Stanton, who's chair of the Water and Sewer Commissioners. They did a fabulous job working to come to resolution on that.
So those are the last two warrant articles?
They are, and we hope everybody hangs in for the town meeting.
I've always said that we should put the two most exciting articles at the end to encourage everybody to stay. That's great to hear.
We hope, and we hope, we've done a good enough job of vetting these various issues and different warrant articles and the budget for the town residents. So they will hang out to the end because it's important that all voices are heard.
Excellent. So, and I'm here speaking with Tracy Vasili, who is the chairman of the Citizens Advisory Committee. She and her committee have worked very hard to vet each and every of the 24 warrant articles. Of course, you can read all about it in the Foxborough Reporter this Thursday. And that would be May 7th. Pick up your reporter and take your time to read it at home, and then come out to the annual town meeting on Monday, May 11th, at 7:30 at the Foxborough High School auditorium.
Correct.
So we've talked about water and sewer, we've talked about contracts, and we've talked about the budget. Somewhere in between Articles 8 and 22, there's some other meat and potatoes. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, probably one that I think will pique the interest of a lot of folks is a change to a proposal to amend a bylaw that would allow the town warrant to be published not in its entirety in the paper. And I know a lot of people might cringe at the sounds of that, but just to share with you, sometimes we have very large warrant articles to the point that we rave the full reading on the town meeting floor. And sometimes, but according to the bylaw as it's written right now, we have to publish the entire article in the paper, resulting in the last...
In the local paper.
In the local paper. And the last, to do that, in the fall, we had a very long article at the time, the signed bylaw.
Yes,
you may recall.
I remember that. Yes.
It cost us close to $7,000 as a town to publish it in its entirety. So what the amended bylaw would allow us to do is publish it in for the longer articles in abbreviated form, so people know the context, but also make it available in hard copy at the town hall as well as other locations in town, which we currently do so today, but also make it available in its entirety, electronically.
It's been a long day.
It has, but it's been a great one.
Well, currently it is available in PDF format on the town website, Town of Foxborough.
It is.
And it's a great website, and it has a chock full of information, including all the information about the advisory committee.
Absolutely.
And it is, I think it's a great resource, and that, of course, was developed back in the late 2000s. Rainey Scollins is one of the key people behind that. Eric Arvdon and I participated a little bit. It seems as though it would be inconceivable today to not have a town website, but that website does have, and of course it's all up to the departments to post their minutes and all the information.
Yes.
So, nobody's perfect, but it is a lot of information out there. So with the town warrant being available online, some would argue it isn't necessary to publish in the newspaper, but I suppose if we're going to play devil's advocate, we would have to say that it probably is. So I believe we're going to have an opportunity now to have the live election results.
Absolutely. Well, let me hand this over to you.
Well, actually, I might have been a little premature in that, but I do see that we're getting close. So folks at home, I hope that you're getting ready, because I know that Kathy Brady and her team have disassembled, I suppose that's the word.
That is the word.
And that typically means that they have a count. So I have my pen and paper in hand.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you to write down the numbers. Can you do that for me?
Oh, I can.
My new favorite partner here.
Okay.
So I will take these from you.
Okay, that has all my notes on.
That's okay. I'm going to put them here. We can do this. We have the power. We have the technology.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you this, and I'm going to take that.
Okay. Can I step away?
You can stay right there.
Okay.
And until they come and give us the high sign,
okay,
we're going to continue talking about the annual town meeting. And of course, we hope you'll be there on May 11th to vote on the warrant articles. Was there anything in that meat and potatoes discussion that we haven't touched on yet that you think we should hit in 1 minute or less?
I mean, I have to tell you, it was a lot of the standard articles are on the town warrant, where we give approval to expend the highway funds that we receive from the state, creation of a stabilization fund for our Southeastern regional participation, amending some of the planning board general bylaws, accepting a couple of streets within as public ways within the town. So really the ones that we discussed are truly the meat and potatoes of the warrant, but they're all important, and it's important to come out and participate in the process. I do want to make mention that the advisory committee meets September through December, and then January through May in preparation for the meetings. We meet every Wednesday night.
Every Wednesday night?
Every Wednesday night. Sometimes a couple times additional a week when we're exceptionally busy. Meetings start at 7, typically at the McGinty Room at the Public Safety Building. They are open meetings for folks to attend and listen to. And I always, love to see people, attend and become aware of what we do, but also become part of the process so they can speak with their friends about what they learned there as well. And folks are always willing to put their name in to be part of the advisory committee. To do so, there's a form on the town website. Back again to the importance of the town website.
Yep.
And that form goes to Frank Mortimer, who reaches out.
Frank Splain, excuse me.
always mess those two up. Couldn't be two more different people. Who will then, contact the folks who apply and, talk with them through the time commitment and so forth and the expectations. But absolutely, recommend doing so. People of all ages, all 18 and up are more than welcome.
Well, and Frank Splain is our town moderator, and people often wonder, why is a town moderator elected? And these are one of the reasons why. It's a volunteer position, and Frank does a great job. He's been our town moderator for quite a while. Bob Cutler was before him, and of course Garrett Splain before him.
Yes.
So we've had great continuity in the role, and I got to tell you, one of the reasons why I enjoy going to town meeting is just the interplay and seeing how town meeting is run. It is a truly an exercise in civic participation, and I got to tell you, I just get a kick out of it. Maybe I'm just a government geek. I don't know.
No, it's quite interesting, and until you really, start participating and going, and just watching your first, a couple or two times, it's really informative. And the format is we go article by article. The advisory the advisory committee will present. A person from the AdCom presents the warrant article, then shares, kind of the vetting that we've done. Puts forth our recommendations and the reasons behind it. And again, at that point, the floor gets open to any questions, comments, or concerns.
Okay. And also at the annual town meeting, there is a copy of the town report that people can pick up. They can also pick up that copy of the town report at Town Hall.
Yes.
And it is always a good read. Every department reports, and every department has their say, as well as the budget from the prior year is in there. And
Correct.
it's really our logbook of the year.
It is, and the advisory committee's reports in there as well.
Great information, and thank you everybody for staying with us on live election coverage on Foxborough Cable Access. Again, shout out to my producer Lauren Bitar, Michael Weber, Mike behind the camera, and Bob Gillis, who we made laugh at least once, hopefully 5 times tonight. On behalf of everybody at Foxborough Cable Access, have a great evening, Foxborough. Take care.
Take care.